Okay, welcome everybody to the April 2025 AACE Central Savannah River section meeting. Tonight we've got a very dynamic speaker. He's come to speak to us in the past. I want to introduce him. His name is Roger Duke. After 42 years of project program management roles at the Savannah River Site, Roger is now a full-time professor at Augusta University in Augusta, Georgia. He teaches project management in their business school, as well as holding traditional and agile workshops for certifications. Roger graduated from Auburn University in 1977 and the University of South Carolina in 1979 with degrees in mechanical engineering. Please join with us to welcome tonight's speaker, Roger Duke. Roger?
Yeah, we're not getting any sound, Brad.
Hang on, let me try to get that. You're not getting any sound at all? You getting my sound?
I can hear you, but can't hear Roger. I'm reading
Okay.
his lips though, and he says that he's really thankful to be here, and he's going to put on a really whiz bang. Oh, and sign language too. Yeah, there we go. Oh, and he said, and now he's saying, Brad, you better get this fixed right away.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because I can hear him through the PA system here. Let me do a quick check.
Can anybody else hear him, or is it not? Or
How about this? Try it again, Roger.
All right. How about now?
Yep.
How about now?
Yep.
Is that a good level compared to my level?
Testing
well, you're
one.
louder, but
okay. Let me turn him up.
Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing
Perfect.
1 2.
Is that a good level for him?
I think so.
Okay.
And I was looking forward to practice my sign language.
All right. Well, what I'm going to do, since we're all friends here, is I'm going to start over and reintroduce him for the purpose of the video. Is that okay?
All right.
All right. Thank you. And thanks for correcting that error before we got deep into it and realized no audio. He's the most important audio. Welcome, everybody, to the April 2025 AACE Central Savannah River Area Section Meeting. My name is Brad Nichols. I'd like to introduce tonight's speaker. It's Roger Duke. After 42 years of project and program management roles at the Savannah River Site, Roger is now a full-time professor at Augusta University in Augusta, Georgia. He teaches project management in their business school, as well as holding traditional and agile workshops for certifications. Roger graduated from Auburn University in 1977 and the University of South Carolina in 1979 with degrees in mechanical engineering. Please join with us to welcome tonight's speaker, Roger Duke. Roger?
Thank you, Brad. Yeah, it's great to be here. Good to see people that I haven't seen in a long time. I'm glad I don't have to go out to SRS to see them anymore. So life is good, and I'm having a great time teaching at Augusta University, and I want to thank the organization for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm extremely excited about this particular topic, and the reason I am that way, and what I want you to be in there along with me, is that project managers kind of get into the groove, and I guess with the exception of Agile coming up lately, and we are kind of in a very process structured oriented situation, and we have this mindset that we get into, and projects, every project from one project to the next kind of seemed very similar. Okay, and there wasn't much change over the years, maybe in technology and things like that, but the actual project process pretty much stayed the same. And so when I'm teaching and I teach risk management, I started thinking back and I thought, all those risk management meetings that we had with our projects, I honestly can't remember a time that we talked about positive risk or opportunities. And if you think about it, if I were to ask you today, name me some risk, okay, 9 times out of 10, the answers are always negative. And so what I want to put in your mind, get in mind, let me ask you now, can you still hear me? It changed a little bit. Okay, all right, we're good. What I want you to do is I want you to open your mind up and realize that there are both kinds of risk, negative, positive, threats, opportunities, and that if you have the opportunity as a project manager to literally totally change the outcome of your projects if you can create a balanced risk management strategy, where not only do you look at threats and negative ones, but you spend as much time focusing on opportunities. So what I want to do tonight is I want to go through the process to kind of introduce how I go about addressing positive risk and opportunities, and just leave you with some thoughts and some tools and techniques and things that you can do so that next time you have a project and I have a risk management meeting, you're able to say, hey, look, let's take a moment and talk about positive risk and positive opportunities. So let's begin. I think maybe you can see my contact information. Please, any of you are free to contact me anytime, email, phone, or you can join me on LinkedIn and message. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and get into the presentation, if it will work. Brad, try it again. All right, there we go. So here's some questions I want you to think about. First question, do you know what a risk is? Now this may sound like a simple question. I know all of y'all have been in the business for a long time, but when I ask the question to people, that I would say, did you experience a risk event today? And without embarrassing Charles or John, okay, they would probably say, well, I drove my car, okay? And I would say, well, that's good, but that is not a risk, okay? A risk is an uncertain event, something you don't choose to do. And so the risk event associated with driving your car would be like having an accident, getting a speeding ticket, or whatever. So driving the car is not a risk. And I always like to start off with that just to get everybody on the same page on what a risk is. Second question, when you identify risk, are most of your risks negative or positive? Okay? I've told you what my experience has been, but I want you to stop and just think about it a little bit. If you were at a project meeting and you were talking about risk, where would your mind go? Now, y'all are cost engineers, so you would go, well, what's going to cause us to overrun, or what's going, inflation, the economy, something, I don't know all of that, but you would probably go negative first for sure and be thinking about all of that, okay? All right. So that got me thinking. And I thought, well, okay, is there something that makes it more difficult to come up with positive risk? If there is, what would that be? And if you think about it, negative risks generally are risks that are out of your control and come from an external event, possibly, okay? But where do opportunities come from? You have to create them, okay? You have to define what they are. They just don't happen, and they're not natural to think about. So it's harder to come up with opportunities than it is threats. All right, think back on your projects, the successful ones, and which do you remember more? The negative ones you avoided, or the positive ones that you created? This may sound a little bit profound, okay, but getting educated in Alabama, it might make a little more sense. Positive risk, let me back up a little. The question really behind this is, which one do you remember, okay? And if you think about it, It's got to create a memory. So it's got to be good enough, big enough, or bad enough so that it results in a memory. Otherwise, you're not going to remember it. Okay? So it's very important to factor in the impact associated with an event. And if you want to be successful when your project's over, you want your stakeholders. Which events do you want your stakeholders to remember? You want to remember the positive ones, okay? So focusing in on coming up with positive opportunities, risk, it's critical to taking the success of your project to that next level. That's the point I want to have you be thinking about as we get into this. All right, so why are we so negative? Okay. Now, these statistics are quite old, so I'm sure it's changed. Okay. It was in a book that I used to help create this from. But if I know we got parents in here and grandparents. Okay. And parents, 18 negative statements a day for every positive statement. An average of 432 negative statements a day. I mean, just how many times can you say no? Okay. I guess 432 times. Okay. Teachers, now it doesn't just stop at the home, okay, when they go to school. Teachers, 12 for every positive comment, there are 12 negative comments. And then of course, this one, social media wasn't even in its heyday back then when this book was there, but so I know the next one is very, very low, okay. But even the media, pro-negative, not positive. But what I really like are these ones down at the bottom there. 75% of your thoughts are negative, 95% of your thoughts are positive. You can't see what's below that, but the one that I really loved was 85% of the thoughts that you worry about never happen. So we can be negative, or worry, and have a bunch of a negative background, but it doesn't result in a lot of problems. It's just who we are. All right. So this kind of lifestyle has created a negative bias in all of us, and it affects our decision making. And that's what we're talking about as a project manager. You have to make decisions. So how does it affect your decision making? Well, people have a natural tendency because of this background and this bias. It's to put a greater weight on negatives. And I just want you to think about, your life and your behavior and your situations and things that have happened, and see if some of these things, are you, okay? Overemphasizing negatives affects choices and your risk appetite. If I were to give you an identical gain and an identical loss, the loss always has a greater negative response than the positive gain. And the example given in the book was, if you had $20, if I had $20 and I gave you $20, if you had $20 and you lost it, which one would create the greater reaction? And the answer from the study was the negative one, the loss. Okay, just being negative. We've been around negative people, and it just leads to looking on the downside of everything. So your decisions are going to be negatively driven, not so much positively driven. But the one that I think is appropriate for us, being project managers and cost engineers or cost managers, people with fixed mindsets are less likely to pursue positive outcomes that require growth and learning. And I'm one of you, so trust me, I know where they're coming from here. We have this control mindset, especially if you do traditional project management. Everything's got to be according to the plan, okay, according to the baseline. We are driven to have a fixed mindset. If you want to talk about opportunities, which you have to create, you've got to open that mind, and you've got to go from, you've got to have this open mindset and be willing to think creatively, which is kind of hard for a lot of project managers, okay? So my point, what I want to do tonight is I want to emphasize that to come up with positive opportunities, you have to be creative, which is not what we are. So what I did, I know if you look at the blue line up there and the blue green, it'll come, it plays throughout this presentation. So the blue, if you go through and look at the start at the very top and you go around the wheel, you'll just see those are the traditional PMI processes for risk management. Identify the risk, analyze the risk, plan your risk response, implement your risk response, monitor and control the risk, or monitor the responses, I'm sorry. So those are the typical ones that we use. Those are the structured process and the way we go about it. I ran across a book on how to create ideas. And I looked at the process they had in the book for the ideas. It lines up very closely with the same processes that are used for your traditional project management risk processes. If you look at identify, for an idea process, you generate. For analyze, you promote it. For planning the response, you design the idea. For implementing the response, you implement the idea. And then for monitor, you evaluate. So those words are exactly the words that were in this book on how to create an idea. So tonight, what I want to focus on is creativity, okay? And give you some tools and techniques on how to create a more creative environment so that when you're doing your risk management, it makes it easier to come up with opportunities. So if you look at the creative process, these are the four topics associated with that, and I have them lining up with the idea and risk process processes. First of all, freedom. And we're going to go through each of these, and we're going to talk about ideas and tools and techniques and things that you can use as part of the creativity process, and that you can use when you're sitting around trying to come up with your positive risk and your risk management strategies. So you got freedom. You got to have freedom if you're going to be creative. You can't be constrained. You got to create the right environment for freedom. You then have to express your idea, create your idea, and then take action to integrate it. So what we're going to do for the rest of the presentation tonight is we're going to go through each of those four processes for creativity. And we're going to look at how you can reset your mind where that you're thinking about opportunities as ideas. And you will use creativity tools to come up with those opportunities. All right, so let's get into those different processes. Freedom, and you'll notice in each of the title, I've got a green title and a blue title just to connect you back to the traditional processes, okay? So freedom. If you're going to come up with ideas, you have to create an environment where there's a lot of freedom, okay? And I've got some tools to go into that that can help with that creativity piece of it on the next couple of slides. But I found this very, very interesting. 5 stages of idea acceptance. So the best way to really understand this presentation is to put yourself in a spot one time where you came up with an idea. And you thought it was the best idea ever, okay? So now you're going to present it, you're going to say, hey, man, listen to this, okay? I was halfway through my shower, not even at the end of the shower when I got it, okay? So you present it to your group out there, and the first thing they say, it's irrelevant. That's the first stage, okay? So now you have to step back and say, okay, well, I have to make it relevant, okay? So then you come back, add some information to it so it becomes relevant, but now it's not proven, okay? So you step back again, you come in again now, okay, Well, I've got to show that I can prove that this is a good idea. Well, it's proven up, but it won't work. It's too risky. It's too dangerous. So then you step back and you come back again and you say, okay, oh no, now it's just, it's not risky at all. Okay. It's not dangerous. It's perfectly safe, but it won't sell. So you go back down on the fifth stage. Finally, you're at the point now where you can convince everybody that it will sell. It's marketable. It'll make you money. It'll do. It's a great idea, and it becomes a great idea. So it's not easy to get an idea accepted, but it can happen. All right. When you're in a meeting, one of the techniques is to avoid what they call killer phrases. Okay. And what I love about the book that you're going to see on the next slide, okay, the author actually went through and identified 40 killer phrases, okay, and we've all had these, we've all heard them before, okay, but they are exactly what the name says. They will kill an idea, shut somebody up, you know, and stop people thinking outside the box in a minute. So the ones I put up there, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'll get back to you. Oh, this idea will never fly. Or, you know, we've done it this way forever. We've always done it. Yes, but. And he had a list of 40 different ones, okay? The recommendation here is that you tell everybody in your group, in your meeting, what a killer phrase is, and we don't want to hear any. So you just avoid all your killer phrases. Okay, so that just kind of takes that negativity out of the meeting. All right, this one, you've probably seen ready, aim, fire phrased this way, okay? But when it comes to coming up with ideas, okay, you need to have that freedom that I'm talking about to be creative. And so we're going to look at a tool called an idea map, just like it's just a mind map, but they call it idea map. On the next slide, I believe, that is built from this ready, fire, aim approach. So your takeaway on here is ready, fire, aim. You can remember that. It's easy. It makes sense. When we go through the exercise on the next slide, you'll see what I'm talking about. So you're ready to find a problem, fire. You create as many ideas as you can. And then you categorize them, you group them, you synthesize them, and then choose the ideas that make the best solution for you. So it's ready, fire, aim. This is the tool that they suggest that you use. And again, I know what you're saying. When we have our risk management meetings, we just sit back and say, well, what if this happens? Or what if this happens? And that's the extent, okay, of your thinking that goes into coming up with your risk, okay? And that what I'm proposing to you is ridiculous, okay? The amount of time and the effort that you do it. If you can really stop and think that if I can come up with an opportunity, a positive risk, that significantly positively influences my project and results in a memory for a positive memory for a project team and the stakeholders, it's worth the time and the effort. And you don't know what, because it's a creative approach, you don't know what the answer is going to be when you start. So you have to have that open mind, realize the process is creative, and go for it, even though it seems like it may not make any sense at all. On my left, on your right, is an idea map. It's a mind map, and it was just a figure that I took off of Google, where they're trying to come up with a marketing strategy. And as we go through the steps on the left over there, the idea is to end up with a idea tree or a mind map that can help give you ideas for your solutions. So I'm going to walk through the steps. Ready, look at the problem and come up with from the viewpoints of others. That's one of the really points that comes out a lot on a number of these different techniques, is you have to have a different perspective. You have to be able to see it from the people that are affected by it. So look at it from a different perspective. Create the idea map with a trigger word. Okay, now marketing strategy is not a trigger word for creativity. What the author suggests is that you come up with a word may not have anything to do directly with what problem you're trying to solve, but it forces you to come up with all these other words that when you look at them on a tree and you've got them organized, an idea pops in your head. And this is a new technique to me. And I tried it in my class with my students this week. We're doing an end of the year project. And we are providing a dinner for the families at our local Ronald McDonald House. So the project is a dinner event. So I got the students together and say, okay, we're going to go through this idea mapping process. I picked the trigger word for memory. It was memories was a trigger word. And I said, what I'm looking for is that when we finish this event, it ends up with memories for the families, memories for the children that are there, memories for the students, memories for the Ronald McDonald House. So memories is our trigger word. And I said, okay, let's go. We're ready. Now let's fire. And for a few minutes, we just started throwing out different names. Vacation, pets, photographs, things words that just popped in their heads as it was regarding that memories brought up, okay? And again, I know you're thinking, this still is, where is Roger taking us, okay? All right. Well, then once we did that, we drew the lines with the words. We found 3 or 4 main concepts or groups. So I looked at them and I had emotions made memories. Emotions was one category. Entertainment had 5 different categories. And then I just took all those words and put them in the right categories. So we created a cluster, categorize them, and then you can just print out an outline, it's just a Roman numeral kind of outline from that. And you look at that and then you identify 4 or 5 solutions. Well, what popped out in us doing this was somebody said they took a cruise. And I thought about cruises and I said, what makes cruises memorable? And I saw the word food up there. Well, food, all the food you can eat and food you never would eat, never would cook at home. And then I started thinking, well, that would be kind of neat to be able to do that. But we're not going to do an all-you-can-eat buffet. Well, technically it is all-you-can-eat. But we're not going to have all different kinds of food. It's just we just can't afford that kind of stuff. So then we looked over there and somebody put desserts. And so what we ended up doing from this exercise is that we said, we're going to have a mega dessert bar where the families and the children can come up, get whatever they want on desserts, and we're going to give them to-go bags where they can take these sweets home with them overnight for the next week. And then it kept growing from there. It says, well, what kind of desserts? Well, if we did ice cream floats or we did ice cream, what do you call it, the dishes where you got the bananas. Anyway, or you can make your own ice cream cone and put sprinkles on them. So the kids could come up. My students are going to work with the kids, and they can make their own little ice cream cone. So it just kind of grew from that. So that is what we're going to do, as opposed to just set desserts out on the table they can come and get. See what I'm saying? So through this creative process, we came up with an idea that resulted in a very positive opportunity for that event. All right, so that was freedom. That was the first creative process. Next is expression, to promote or analyze, okay? So now you've got these proposed solutions, so now you want to go through and you want to analyze them, so you're going to ask questions about them, okay? And there's different ways and different types of questions that you can ask. You can have a vision, a very focused vision, and just ask questions as regards to meeting that vision. You can ask questions that are flexible and focused. Flexible meaning You're looking, they're flexible enough questions that they can take into account other people's perspectives, but yet focused enough so that the answers that you get will satisfy the problem solution that you're talking about. Asking dumb questions, and that's real easy for me, okay? But if you think about it, sometimes, well, I guess I just started thinking, if you watch some of these court TV shows, okay, and you got the lawyer up there, okay, and when they ask that dumb question, okay, they're trying to get the jury to see that it's not so dumb, okay? For example, why do I need to sign a form? I can't read those. Why do I need a hard copy? Okay, just so asking dumb questions is another legitimate technique for trying to promote or analyze your idea. Going back and basically using those 6 universal questions that we always say: who, what, when, where, why, how. Those questions, okay, can help take your solution that you've identified from your map and then analyze it and express it in such a way that it becomes more of an idea. And then the last set over there, the 5 whys. And I love this one, okay? And I know you've heard of this one before, but basically you'll ask somebody, something, and they'll say, this is why I did it. You're trying to find the root cause. And you say, well, why did you do that? And they'll say something else. And you keep going down. And after about 5 whys, you'll finally get to the root cause. So that too, once you know the root cause of the problem is that you're trying to come up with an idea on, is another simple way to help you create that idea. So now we've gone into the creation part of it. Okay, there are different techniques you can use for that. You can have a visualization technique, and the one that came to my mind, okay, when we talk about visualization, I remember watching the Olympics one time, and there was a skier, okay, standing up at the top of the slope, and basically what they were doing, they was going down through the entire, in their mind, they were going down through the entire course, and then they get to the end, okay? When you're creating ideas, you think about the solution. You visualize the solution, and then you back up incrementally to where you are today. And as you're backing up and looking at different points coming backwards, it can help you create the idea. Look for opposites. I didn't know this had a name. Maybe you're looking for opposites, not the real name. But I've used this technique all along. When I am trying to understand why something works, I look at the extremes. And if I can see what happens at the extreme, the high extreme and the low extreme, then it gives me a great idea of what's going to happen in between. So when I saw this technique, so looking for opposites, the examples I gave was, for example, as what if I speed it up? What if I slow it down? What if I force it to do something, or what if I make it relaxed? Okay. What if I make it simple, or what if it's really complex? So it forces you to think about the boundaries, and then you begin looking at what happens in between. So looking at opposites helps you think about how your idea might actually be and be created. Challenge assumptions, that's pretty straightforward. If you got assumptions, challenge them, but start by looking at the opposite or assuming, the negative of that particular assumption. Can't really read the next one. I'm not sure about that one, but basically what you're going to do, if you've got assumptions in the process, you could just challenge those assumptions. Another technique. Hey, Brad. There we go. I got it. Okay, got it. All right. Again, we're still in the creation process. Changing perspectives. This one really is a great and easy technique, was just to put yourself in the other person's shoes. are the people that are affected by the idea that you're trying to generate. Identify the problem is, put on their shoes, problem looks like from their perspective, and then capture the idea. Really straightforward, but again, looking at it from a different perspective. Our dinner for our families at the Ronald McDonald House. Sit at the table. They've spent all day in the hospital with a loved one. They've been doing that for, these are families who have patients that are in for a long period of time. How do they feel after a day like that? And what can we do to make their day better? And when you stop and do that, it creates all kinds of ideas, okay? So changing perspective is an excellent way to get some ideas. Borrow creativity. Now, this is one. This is pretty straightforward. This is like, we don't know it all. So go out in the marketplace and go see what other products are like. Do some benchmarking, okay? And see what else is out there. Study a person or an organization that is similar to what you're trying to do, and just go out there and see what's out there available. All right, so now we're in the final process for coming up with the idea, which is the action. Implement. So now we've gone through, we've come up with the idea, and we're going, now it's time to implement it. Fail fast. Now we've heard that. Everybody's heard that before. Fail fast, okay? And especially if you do any agile work, okay? They encourage that. They want that, okay? Failing, I say, if you're going to fail, fail soon and fail fast. And the reason is because you've saved yourself a lot of time and money and resources by finding out something earlier than later, okay? So when it comes to an idea, okay, and remember, it's kind of hard to get it accepted, but if you're out there and you're trying to do it, it's a lot better if you can figure out what's going to not work sooner than later. So fail fast is for installing it. Reduce the penalty for failure, okay? Don't look at failure, especially for an opportunity, in a negative way. And certainly don't have a penalty for that greater than doing nothing, okay? It's so easy to do nothing, okay, and not make a mistake. So fail fast and don't penalize people if something goes wrong. Another technique is you're going to have a vision for whatever it is you're trying to do, and just create a good vision and look at these different areas right here on a particular vision. Direct it toward the future. Is it usable today? Make it firmly grounded in the past. Stable, a very stable vision, but yet flexible, easy understood, well promoted. Have a shared vision for what it is you're trying to do. And this might very well be the most important one at all, okay? We don't give ourselves enough credit for how smart your gut is. When you come up with an idea, something creative, something out of the box, and you hear it or you present it, think about how it makes you feel. How it literally makes you feel. I mean, I'll tell you, when I hear a good idea or I hear something that I think is really great or whatever, okay, I do get a chill if it's real good, okay? So your body reacts to good things in a certain way. And your gut reaction, you know it, you can feel it. It's a serious way to know whether it's a good idea or not. There's a book, Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Blink, and it talks about first impressions when you see somebody and that kind of stuff. Very, very interesting. Really does tell you how important, your gut is. You might have a feeling of total harmony, total sense, but a burst of enthusiasm, energy. When you've nailed it, when you've come up with that idea, I can see the team members jumping on it, saying, this is great, let's do it. And you've got that inner enthusiasm. So trust your gut reaction. Ask the right questions. What happens if it fails? What happens if it's successful? How does it affect the future? How does it affect people if it's personal? How does it affect the mission? You know, does timing make a difference on the ideas? So again, you're trying to evaluate, monitor the response. You want to see what it might happen under these situations. But definitely trust your gut. All right, so we're now at the end, and this is a summary, and I want to go through, and I just want to get, I know it's a lot of stuff. When I first saw this and first put this all together, I honestly thought, there's no way in hell I can get a project team to do something like this. Okay? And then I realized, or thought, well, if we could come up with an unusual idea, a great opportunity, it might all be worth it. Okay? It's a risk. So in summary, I want you to take away, at a minimum, okay, that we need to give as much time identifying opportunities that we give identifying threats, and create this balanced risk management approach. Don't do it all at one meeting. Do it at 2 separate meetings, so that when you're in that positive opportunity meeting, all your team is focused on are those creative steps. Control, especially in our business, is very, very important. Okay. We have a very fixed, structured approach to project management. What we need to do, and a lot of it is avoiding stuff, okay, when it comes from a risk standpoint. What I want you to do is say, okay, let's start getting away from our negative bias that we all have, and start thinking at things from a positive perspective. Make opportunities happen. Celebrate opportunities. There's nothing better for a project team than to come off, pull something off, a really great positive opportunity, than to celebrate something like that. You're not going to celebrate avoiding a negative threat. Okay? But you will celebrate creating a positive opportunity. Okay? And then on final, just choose to be more positive. Okay? I've got a 20-year journey going from being a normal SRS person, okay, to who I am today. And I can tell you that I've never been happier before, and a lot of it simply came from changing my attitude and just being more positive than being negative. It's a hell of a lot more fun on a project, talking about positive things and making opportunities happen. And finally, just remember, great ideas make great opportunities. All right. Brad, that's it, man. I've said a lot. I'm open for questions. Those of you that are local, I've got a bonus question that I'm going to give out some books. I collect classic business books, and I've got a package here of 3 Jim Collins books, Good to Great, Great by Choice, and How the Mighty Fall. And the question is, how many times have I driven around the world working at SRS? So whoever gets the closest, and you heard at the beginning, it was 42 years. And I lived out in Martinez, Evans, okay? So.
About 30 miles.
Well.
One way.
I'm more interested in how many times I've driven around the world. All right, Brad, open up for questions. See if there's any questions.
Well, I have a question. So
okay.
I'm picturing the process you described really needing to come from leadership, right? So most things that are new, like encouraging the team to be particularly creative and doing a session like that would need to come from, I presume, like the project manager?
Well, I'm actually proposing that you have your risk management sessions, but you break it into two. So I'm really proposing more of a structure change, and that you have to have a threat negative meeting and a positive meeting. So if your company has a project management office, then I see it more as a change in the governance than just leadership. I mean, leadership needs to encourage. Obviously, there's some of those things in there like avoiding killer phrases. Okay, it would be wrong to difficult to have a leader that just wasn't willing to change, or willing to do stuff outside the box, or even to think about it. So it does require, some mindset changes. Okay, which could be at a leadership level, at a project manager level, at a project team level.
Thank you. We learned back in our continuous improvement days that even if there are a fixed cadre of rules, you can still make changes for the better within that environment. So I would imagine there could be improvements and a creative revolution like you described, even within the ranks without necessarily engaging higher up.
Well,
What do you think?
at a minimum, okay, have a session in your risk management where you're forced to think about opportunities. I open this up to the attendees. I would love to get some examples of where project teams have come up with opportunities and then implemented those and resulted in a very positive impact. Okay, as a result of their risk management approach. Okay, in other words, a structured approach where they actually thought about opportunities as much as they thought about negatives or threats.
Do we have any other questions? As a reminder, you can put your questions in the chat if you prefer, or you can unmute yourself and just ask.
Well, those things you're talking about, because I've always gone with the idea that, the eliminate the negative things and good things will happen. But it seems like we're always like, in basketball or sports, a lot of times you're playing not to lose. You kind of know what I mean? But
Oh, I definitely know what you mean.
yeah, but and this risk thing is kind of fits the same category. I'm having a hard time doing this paradigm shift of positive when you think of all the bad things that can happen on a project. I know there's a way because you're talking about it, but it's going to take me a while to get there.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. My whole life and all of the projects I've been on, I honestly can't think of a time where we sat and intentionally tried to come up with opportunities. I honestly can't. We've only talked about what ifs,
Yeah.
and from a negative perspective. And
Trying to protect that MR, management reserve, trying to protect that schedule margin.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you did when you did your, came up with your ideas or whatever, I mean, you could actually put some additional budget in your management reserve that if something great happened, you could, and you needed some extra money maybe or something to that effect to make it happen, you could have money set aside for opportunities. There's lots of different ways to go about it.
Yeah. So that wasn't really a question, it was more of a comment, but
Well, what I want to say is that what you said is perfectly normal. That's the way most of us are. Okay, to change, okay. Yeah, it's a paradigm shift. Okay, right now we want to make sure that we don't end up significantly behind schedule because something happens. We don't end up going over budget because something happens. We don't sit around and think, well, what's an idea that can save us money? I mean, it comes up, but I'm gonna say we don't, it's not part of the structure.
Right.
And that's what I'm suggesting, is that we now recognize the importance of opportunities and thinking of positive risk and balance that out with the amount of time we spend thinking about negative risk.
So Roger, I'll give it in here. So I was thinking about that as you were talking through the presentation and trying to go back in the memory banks, trying to think, well, why is it our business that seems to be the case? And one hypothesis, if you will, is that if I'm a willing worker, and especially if I'm doing either earned value or just project management, you're kind of baking in some of that opportunity thought with your upfront planning, in that most people are going to try to design a process or go through the project already assuming that the people that are providing that input have already thought about what is the best, fastest, most sure way that I can do this with the information that I have. And there's a difference between if I'm way off in class 5 and I'm pie in the sky and there's a lot of room. Okay, fine, sure. It probably hasn't been that matured, but when you do have a more mature design, most of the people have thought like, well, this has worked the last 20 times. I know how to put a glove box in. I kind of know that. So you've almost distilled a couple generations of thought into your upfront planning. So in some ways you kind of have, but you're not doing what you've mentioned, which I like, which is, all right, but those opportunities are built on assumptions from different projects or from yesteryear. They're grounded in a very different assumption. You're saying, let's go ahead and quantify that. Let's go put it on its head and dig a little deeper, right?
Right. That what you're saying, Charles, is exactly right. I mean, that just like for threats, we already know what's going to cause a problem from all the number of times we've worked on projects. Okay. We know the best practices, so we factor those in there. Okay. That becomes part of the plan. Risk, though, is thinking about things that are uncertain, things that are unknown. And for threats, it's easy to come up with negative things. But for opportunities, you have to you literally have to create them. So it's a whole different approach creating opportunities than it is identifying negative threats. And what I'm suggesting is recognize that it's different. You don't know what the answer is because you may not have ever experienced it. Okay. We didn't know the answer was to have this mega dessert bar for the families until we came up with it. And now it's an opportunity, okay, that we're going to use to make it more memorable. Okay. So it's more of a creative process. This is where I kind of grew to, and especially after I read this book on ideas, how to generate, and saw that there was really a connection between creating opportunities and creating ideas. So that was kind of the birth of this approach. Okay.
So if I had the example of digging a hole, what if I'm going through analysis of opportunities, all that fun stuff, I might say, well, do I do it by hand or do it with a backhoe? And that's sort of like a traditional thing.
Right.
You're saying, well, no, you know it rains a lot here in the South. Well, okay, so I can either work within the rain or I'm going to put in some contingency for rain days. You're saying, well, no, don't think of it that way. What if you just build a tent over the darn thing and it doesn't matter if it rains, right? You're saying get really creative, think outside of the box, and go create an opportunity through that creative process. Right?
Yeah. We don't do I'm not suggesting that we do all of these techniques, okay? Because that would just take forever and and I can imagine, I can see a project team when you introduce this to them as an idea, okay, that we're going to change what we're going to do. But It is thinking about events that are unknown. Okay. So you can come up with really simple, straightforward events, or you can be creative and see if there's something better, bigger, and better out there. And that's what I'm saying. There might be. If there is, and you're able to make because you want to make the positive risk occur. If you're able to pull it off, then you've ended the project or now the project has a very successful, positive memory for the stakeholders and the project team. If you go through and mitigate all your negative threats, you end up with a successful project that nobody remembers.
Right. So avoiding the threats is the expectation. You're saying, let's take it up a notch and see if we can't surprise ourselves.
Because I believe there are ideas out there when you try to take it up a notch.
Gotcha.
Okay. So it's a mindset change.
Yeah. I definitely personally can tell. Yeah. I can see why that's difficult to do. Right. And just human nature is against you in some ways. But you mentioned having your own space, having a separate meeting that is absolutely separate from the other way. And I think that's brilliant. That's the key there, because you can't go into it with the same mindset that you do.
No, you can't sit around and say, okay, well, we're going to think of negative and positive risk at the same time. You can't have a meeting like that. You lose all the freedom, to come up with out of the box things. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions out there online, perhaps? Going once?
All right. Well, I know that you've all been trying to figure out how many times I've driven around the world. Somebody give me a number.
3.5.
3.5.
I'll go 3.4.
Oh, this is somebody that watches those game shows. The Price is Right, huh? 4?
John
18.
says 4.
Who said 15?
Gary Bunker.
Gary Bunker. Gary, yes, you're closer, but short.
18.
Short.
Wow.
Well, then
20.
how do you drive across
20.
the ocean?
The answer is 25.
25.
I drove around the world. This was before working remote, obviously, and COVID. I drove around the world 25 times, going to and from work. I didn't carpool. And let's see, 25 times. Oh, but even more depressing, how many extra work years did I spend in my car? 10. The 10 is that's right. So actually I spent 52 years. Remind me to change my bio to say 52 years at Savannah River Site.
Dang.
All right. So who said 18? Was that you, Gary?
Yes.
All right. So Gary, you get the books. I'll leave them here with Brad.
All right.
Wow. Nothing like a little game show to wrap up our section meeting. Well, Roger, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. You were very engaging, and everybody stayed till the end, and we're
Wow.
for you.
Okay. Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Good stuff.
Seriously.
Good stuff. If you'll allow me to invite you back in the future.
Sure. Maybe I need to become a member.
Woohoo! I love it.
Okay.
I love it. Roger's a member of PMI, so maybe we'll recruit him over to be a co-member of AACE.
Is there an opportunity for me associated with that?
Absolutely.
Maybe I need to be creative and see how I can make it.
Absolutely. We are definitely sister organizations.
All right.
If I could direct our attention, we have a couple of upcoming section meetings. We have one more coming up May 8 to wrap up our 2024-2025 season. Dexter Justice of the Tennessee Department of Transportation will be speaking on the West Knoxville Corridor projects, the challenges facing today's drivers. Next season, we're we're going to take the summer off, but next season we'll kick off September 11, 2025 with Carter Hopkins of the Savannah River Nuclear Solutions. He's the CFO. He'll be speaking on indirect rate management. I hope you'll consider joining us for both of those. And if you like what you've seen today and want to see a little more, maybe for a meeting you've missed, you can check out our YouTube channel, AACE-CSRA, and tell a friend. You know, good old-fashioned direct marketing. Tell a friend to come join us on one of these section meetings. We thank you for your attendance, and we're grateful for your support. We hope we can all grow our business acumen together. Everybody have a great evening. Thank you. Good night.